This is Charles Stewart.
And the Reverend Dr. Anthony Williams.
We are Church Without Walls.
And we are here today to give you information that you don't normally get at church.
We come your way every Monday morning, 11 to 12.
Call in with your comment or your questions, and we'll be glad to try and answer them for you. If we don't have the answer today, we will get it to you on a message.
Don't you dare miss it.
This is Congressman Cedric Richmond, and you're watching the New Orleans Talk Network.
Hi, this is Stan Schofield, and I'm inviting all of my KWK family and my family to watch Church Without Walls, 11 o'clock on Mondays, for the greatest and latest show around. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Joe Lapinto, and you are watching the New Orleans Talk Network.
This program does not reflect the views and opinions of the New Orleans Talk Network. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yo, Mob, kick it for me one time. What is the world coming to? Seems like everyone is running from.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You are listening and you are watching Church Without Walls. We come your way every Monday morning, 11 to 12, Central Standard Time. We are in the studio of the New Orleans Talk Network. Every Monday morning we come to knock down those walls that may stand in your way. Everybody has walls in their way, but Church Without Walls, we come to knock down every wall that may stand in your way. And with the help of God, we know we can knock them down. Every Monday morning, we want you to call in. We'd like to share your view. We'd like for you to get in on the conversation. So much is going on in the news. We normally used to give you a summary of what done happened during the course of the week, but you got so much going in the news with the Trump situation going on with the flooding. So, we have two great people in the studio this morning, and we want to use that valuable time sharing with our viewing audience. For those who are watching and listening, we thank you for tuning in. You can call us at 1-563-999-1808. You can get in on this conversation this morning. And we want to thank you for listening, and we thank you for watching us. And I just don't want to take up too much time today because we got two very special guests in our studio this morning. And we have the Honorable Judge from Avondale, Louisiana, Michele Holmes. Also from the East Bank, the Honorable Judge Roscoe Lewis. And we're so happy that they took time out of their busy schedule to come in the studio to educate you and you to learn more about what our judges do that affect your life and the responsibility of a judge, and expect the justice of the peace have more impact on your life than you realize. I know those that have problems getting evicted, they know what the justice of the peace do. And many of them that get married sometime, Miss Justice of the Peace, I know y'all familiar with that, but it's other things they do besides that. And we so happy that they stopped by the studio and to be on Church Without Walls. Dr. William, you have any opening statement this morning?
Basically, what we'd like to do is pray for everybody who are watching us and let them know that we have prayed for them and that God is watching over them, and whatever problem it is that they're going through today and the rest of this week, God will be watching over them.
And Judge Holmes and Judge Roscoe, Judge, you first. We'd like to introduce yourself to the people who don't know you and who you are. Just get them about on yourself.
I will. Good morning. How are you? I am Judge Michele P. Holmes. I am the Jefferson Parish Justice of the Peace in Avondale, part of Westwego, and part of Bridge City. That is considered all the way from Capitol Drive to Drake Drive, and the majority part of Bridge City. My office is located at 4008 US Highway 90 in the Avondale J.C. Simmons Community Center. You can stop by my office anytime between 10 and 3 o'clock. My job in Avondale it's not just evictions. We do a lot of things besides evictions. We mostly help with small claims, notary, marriage, like Judge said, and just be there to counsel people. You know, sometimes they might need a question asked that they entered that don't have the answer to. And if I don't have the answer, I always call my mentor, which is Judge Lewis. So anytime you need me or need to stop by, you can call the office number, or you could call my cell number. My clerk will give you the number where I can always be in contact. Judge Lewis?
Good morning. First, let me thank Mr. Stewart for allowing me to be here this morning, as well as Reverend Williams. It's an honor to be here this morning to communicate to the various audience a little bit about the Justice of the Peace Court and what it does and what it can do for you in terms of helping each individual. It's important. Now, I am the Justice of the Peace on the East Bank. My district is District 8. It's southwest of Kenner. So, and I've been in this office elected 2002, so I'm in my third term. That is very important because it tells me that the people that elected me is very important that I do a good job, and they assured me by electing me, allowing me to serve 3 terms. Thank you.
We're so happy to have our 2 honorable judges sharing with us this morning. Not only are they great judges, but they great people of God. Either one of them didn't mention that, but when you is a child of God, you don't have. They say you don't have to put a sign on your head or a sign on you say who you are. But I can tell you, both of them are great person of character, and they great person of understanding. And that's why they're here today, to show some love to those in the community, to want to learn more about the court. And let's say this here, the court not only, you know, I was jokingly saying about people getting evicted, but also the judge protect their homeowners also. You know, it worked 2 ways. And that's why they are here today, for those who want to know about the court and get a better understanding about the court. And it's maybe not something the office that they do, but they also know about the other parts of the law. So you're invited to for any question that you want to ask them. And I always tell people at the New Orleans Talk Network and Church Without Walls, we do not put screen in the question that people ask. We been fortunate that they don't time
Of the lease agreement, if it's a violation of a verbal agreement that was made between the landlord and the tenant. And let's give an example. If it's for non-payment of rent, and it's a verbal agreement, the landlord must give the landlord would have to come to court, present a copy of the 5-day notice to the court to indicate that they did give them 5 days before they even showed up for court. Okay. Now, the court has a minimum of 10 days, a minimum of 3 days before they even hear the case. That's give the tenants an opportunity.
Come in.
No, give them an opportunity to present themselves.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Be prepared for court if they're going to show up for court. So now you're talking about 8 days, a minimum of 8 days, and if it falls on the weekend, because you can't, a 5-day notice, you cannot count a holiday or the weekend. So it could be between 8 to 10 to 11 days before a hearing is even held.
Okay.
Okay, now, once the hearing is held, and they still have, still in violation, the law gives them 24 hours afterwards. Okay, to remove themselves without the landlord doing anything. That's the process. Okay.
What if the property is damaged?
That if the property is damaged, it's still an eviction. I mean, that's a violation. Whether you paid your rent or not, right? Mm-hmm. That's a violation of your lease. Damage to the property.
Are you talking about before,
talking about
after they
afterwards?
leave out?
Before they leave out. When you go, say if you go to the house and you find out that your property is damaged, and you ask them how they're going to take care of it, and they say they're not going to take care of it.
You want to answer that? You want me to
Do
answer
you
that?
have do y'all have a deposit? Do you use your deposit? What is in your, you have to go by whatever in your lease and whatever they sign. And whatever they sign, and if you go in there and something is damaged and you do a walkthrough, and not the everyday wear and tear, because your carpet going to get, if you go there and see a massive hole or something removed out of place, that should cover your deposit.
Okay, if the damage is more than the deposit.
Then they have to file a civil case.
Okay.
To reclaim whatever damage is above normal wear and tear. Okay, now, what you need to be aware of, all landlords need to be aware of, is that it's their right, just like the tenant right to take care of things, it's the landlord right to check on their property. So if the tenant is not taking care of their property, then they should get a violation or some kind of note, to either take care of it or do a notice to vacate before it even get bad. Because what I've noticed in my experience is that a lot of landlords just want to get paid, but they don't do anything, go and check their property. So just like if you want that property maintained, then you need to make sure the tenants that you have are maintaining it. Because if something go wrong, then you want to make sure you're on top of the game as well to start if it's your responsibility to start taking care of those damages as well, if it's your responsibility to take care of certain types of damages to the property. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I only talked about verbal agreement. Okay. Now let's go with the written. Now, when it's a written lease, you have to make sure, and I want to tell every tenant to make sure they read that lease completely to understand that there is no waiver or notice in that lease. A waiver notice means that the tenant waives his right of a 5-day notice prior to eviction proceedings, which simply means that if you violate your contract, damages or non-payment of rent, you will not get a 5-day notice. What you will receive is that landlord will go straight to the court, show them their lease, show them that waiver or notice. We will receive from the constable a petition eviction order to come to court on a certain day. So there will be no 5-day notice if in that lease there's a waiver of a 5-day notice. That has to be understood up front. Yeah. So that's why you want to make sure every tenant want to make sure they read every provision in that lease. And I'm only talking about right now the waiver or notice. Now, if there is no waiver or notice, then it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, a verbal agreement, which means that the landlord has to give a 5-day notice. That's all. I just want to make that clear.
Okay. We have to take a break, and you are listening and you are watching Church Without Wall. Dr. Anson William and Charles Stewart. Our studio guest is Judge Michele Holmes and also Honorable Judge Roscoe Lewis. We got to take a short break and we'll be back. This is Charles Stewart.
And the Reverend Dr. Anthony Williams.
We are Church Without Walls.
And we are here today to give you information that you don't normally get at church.
We come your way every Monday morning, 11 to 12.
Call in with your comment or your questions, and we'll be glad to try and answer them for you. If we don't have the answer today, we will get it to you on a message.
Don't you dare.
The New Orleans Talk Network, now on your mobile device, on your computer, in your ear, and interactive. It's new, it's innovative, and it's on your mobile device. Android, iPhone, iPad, and on your computer. Take us wherever you go. Because we're interactive. 504-341-TALK. That's 504-341-8255.
New year, new show. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Dr. Rhonda M. Lawson, and I'm coming back at you with the new year of Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions. And this year, we're moving to Monday night with brand new exciting guests and engaging literary conversation. And we want our listening audience to be there with us because this is going to be a year you will not forget. Catch us every Monday night, 7 p.m., right here on the New Orleans Talk Network. And you can also reach us on the Meet the World Image Solutions Facebook page, the Meet the World Image Solutions YouTube page, and we're on Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. So catch us every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. See you there.
Kick it for me one time.
What is the world coming to? Seems like everyone is running from the truth. You just stand up and fight, walk into the
We are back. You are listening. You are watching Church Without Walls, the studios of the New Orleans Talk Network. You want to get in on this conversation, you can call us 1-563-999-1808. Dr. Williams?
Well, let's just say, for instance, a person has been given an eviction notice by the judge, and they have not moved in the time that they gave them to move out. Is there a counseling session that you have after that point, or what procedures do we use?
Well, first off, let me just make sure that everybody understands that it won't be a notice. Once you come to court, there will be a judgment for an eviction. And a judgment for an eviction indicates that it would be 24 hours, whereby that tenant and the occupants of that place can prepare to get everything out within those 24 hours. However, if they do not remove themselves, for whatever reason, the landlord has an opportunity or has a right to come back to the court and order a writ of ejection, or we call it a writ of possession, which means that we, as the judges, sign that writ of ejection, or writ of possession, or writ of ejection, and gives them communicating to the constable as to the day. It could be the following day, it could be 2 days afterwards, that the constable will go to that particular place, and it's the responsibility of the landlords to provide, and we ask in our code, a minimum of 2 people to be there, whereby the constable is going to direct those individuals, we call them movers, to go in there to remove everything out, place it on a neutral ground without tearing anything up, and then give possession to the landlord. That's the process. You want to add anything?
Yeah. I mean, that would be the people, I mean, you got to make it clear to them to say that they will have to get the people to move the stuff, not the constable. All he's going to do is do an itemized list of everything that has been taken out of that particular home at that time.
Now, will the landlord be held responsible for the stuff that's being taken out of the
No,
premises?
it's the courts. Long as the constable has indicated through the judge that has video, take pictures, itemized list of everything that came out that place, and when it was placed on the neutral ground, everything was accounted for. The constable is aware of everything that was accounted for. That's the purpose for these movers to go in, and that's the purpose of the constable is to make sure those movers don't break anything up or take anything from that place. Now, again, because this transpired is the reason why it's done because of the tenants not doing what they're supposed to do with the judgment of eviction.
We have a caller on line 1. Caller, you on Church Without Walls. Caller want to talk about the slum law.
Yeah.
While we're trying to get the caller on the phone, let's just say, for instance, you have a person a tenant that's living in your property, and it gets to a point whereas they've vacated the property.
Okay.
You can't find them.
Okay.
Let's say they've gone to court and the judge have given them an eviction notice. Now you can't find them. What process do you use at that point?
If we rendered a judgment for an eviction, that's what you're telling me. Rendered a judgment for an eviction, which means that the constable had served that particular tenant, whether that tenant was present or not. The constable has an opportunity to present that petition eviction order to come to court personally or tape it on the door. Now, if that tenant is not present, it's going to be taped on the door. The time and date is still set, so when that date comes and that time comes, the landlord show up, the tenant do not show up, the tenant, the landlord still have to present their case to show cause why that tenant should be removed. Once the landlord does that, there will be a default judgment, right? Instead of a judgment, be a default judgment indicating that the tenant did not show up for court. Okay? Now, the items, again, 24 hours. If you cannot find those, always ask the landlord if they know the family members, call them, just out of courtesy because you've been working with them for a while or whatever. Call them, let them know that a judgment has been rendered. They have 24 hours to remove the items. If that's, sometimes the landlords don't want to get involved in that, and that's their right. However, 24 hours up, you know where they at. The judgment still stand. They come in and order a writ of rejection, writ of possession, just like I talked about. It's going to go through the process just like as if they were present.
Caller's back on the line. Caller.
Go ahead on caller.
Deacon Charles Stewart. Deacon Charles Stewart, good morning. Good morning, Reverend Williams.
We can't hear you, caller.
They got to fix it in here.
Hello?
We can't hear you. It's not coming into the studio.
Hello?
You're not coming to the studio, caller. I don't know what the problem. Mike, the producer, the call not coming in the studio.
Stay with us because I think your question is very important.
While we waiting on, we have a minor technical problem. What else, Joey, that you want to enlighten our listening and our viewing audience to know that they should know about the court?
I think it's very important that every person, whether you're a tenant or not, if you agree to something, make sure that if both parties agree to something, make sure they put it in writing. I don't care if it's good friends or family members, make sure you put it in writing because if not, there can be some miscommunication. You assume something different than what the other party is when it all comes down to it, and then there's nothing to prove that there was agreement at all. So make sure you do that. Now, if we go back to revert back to the lease agreement, always indicate, and the law indicates that as well, to make sure you read every provision
Before you sign it.
in that lease before you sign it. And if you are not familiar or do not understand the lease, you tell that or you ask the landlord, can I take this lease with me so I can get with someone to help me understand every provision in there. And I always tell it now, if a landlord refuses to do that with a written lease, a red flag should go up to let you know that maybe I don't want to rent at this particular place. Because if the lease is fair, then it shouldn't be no problem that that lease can be taken with the or given to the tenant, so that tenant can go to someone that's familiar or educated enough to break it down to them every provision, because you got to stand by every provision in that lease.
And
Okay?
one more thing is too, along with your lease, that I find a lot of tenants seems to think when something go wrong or something is broke, like the air conditioner or the landlord didn't fix a certain thing, they have a tendency of not paying their rent. You cannot stay in somebody's home without paying the rent. You have right too. If it falls under the lease that the landlord is supposed to fix something for the tenant, you pay your rent, then you have the right to come in and file a complaint, just like the landlord do. You have that problem?
Okay, we got that caller coming back. Caller, you on? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, we got you.
Loud and clear.
We good.
Hi, good morning, Pastor Reverend Williams and Deacon Stewart. Good morning to you. How y'all feeling?
Just fine. How you doing, caller?
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
doing good. I want to give a special shout out to your guests that you had in studio this morning, just giving us so much good information, both subjects. We appreciate y'all for coming by.
Thank you.
Talking to everyone about getting put out their apartments and put out their homes, and so a lot of people, fall on hard times out here. There's two sides to each story with the landlords and the tenants, and some people pay the rent, some people don't. My reason for calling is I want to talk more about the slumlords in the area. People who refuse to get certain appliances fixed in a home, that refuse to get leaky roofs fixed and clogged pipes fixed. And I want to know more about tenants that's having problems with this. And what are their, what are some of the things that they can do? Because first thing people think of is, I'm not going to pay my rent if you can't get the AC fixed. I'm not going to pay the rent if you can't get the appliances fixed or, get the leaky roof fixed. And what are some of the things that tenants can do to, make sure that they're getting their things fixed with the slumlords? Or can they threaten not to pay the rent and actually not pay it? And if they don't pay it, can they get put out for those reasons?
Well, thank you for that question. I think that question is very important. And there should not be any slumlords in the state of Louisiana. However, possible there are. Now,
Speak loud.
I'm speaking. Okay, I'm sorry. There should not be any slumlords in the state of Louisiana. However, we do find some. But if if tenants, before they move into the apartment, they are supposed to have a checklist as well as the landlord. And that's even before signing the contract or lease agreement. They're supposed to go into that apartment and review everything in there, top to bottom. If everything is okay, they should check it off. And I always tell, when they come ask me what my rights are as a tenant, I always say, if there is no checklist by the landlord, then you should have a sheet of paper, because there probably will be a lease that you got to sign. So you need to go in there, check everything. If everything is fine, you understand the lease, then you sign. However, if there are some items that need to be taken care of, then I always tell them you need to amend that contract or that lease agreement, which simply says that if the light wasn't working and it was going to put a fixture in there, you need to note that and also indicate when it is going to be taken care of. Okay? So then that means that just that lease you sign, which represents all those provisions for, more likely for the landlord, now you have some that represent you as well. And if the tenant fill that out with every item that they see that's not fair, that's not complete, and that landlord do not take care or should refuse to sign the lease with those alternatives in there, then the lease, you shouldn't sign it and you shouldn't even move in that place. Now let's get to what we're talking about. You checked everything off. Everything happens to be good. Then all of a sudden, just say the piping goes bad, or the air conditioning, electric goes bad. State of Louisiana indicates that there's a process that the tenant must do. If it's necessary damages, okay, which means that it's not the responsibility of the tenant to take care of, it's the responsibility of the landlord to take care of. Then what the tenant must do is first contact code enforcement to come out to review. And in addition to the code enforcement coming out to review to make sure that it's not hazardous to the family there or to the neighbors, in addition, that tenant should also write a letter to the landlord indicating specifically what the problem is, whether it's the piping, whether it's electricity, which means the air conditioning. Indicate to the landlord a reasonable amount of time to take care of it, which means that it could be 5 working days, it could be 7 working days, it could be 10 working days, depending on how bad it is. Okay? Now, you have to keep a copy for yourself when you present it. The original or another copy to the landlord. Now, when that time expires, if the landlord has not done anything, and you still feel as though the surrounding area is really beautiful for my family, or your family rather, and you want to stay there, then the law say that you must go get a minimum of 2 legit company estimates from two estimates from legit companies. I always say 3, but 2 is satisfactory. And you take the lowest bid. For example, if rent is $800 and you have to you took the lowest bid and it was $700 to get it done. You're going to, I guess the following month, you're going to pay the rent. You're going to get the landlord $100 and a copy of the invoice. That landlord probably is going to refuse it. And he's going to go through the process of an eviction process, right? Your job is to come to court, to indicate to the court if you did call code enforcement out and code enforcement send you some documentation and they say, well, it's just something you need to work out with the landlord, you should present that. If the code enforcement came out and didn't do anything and give you anything, that's fine. But you should have a copy of that letter that you gave to the landlord indicating a reasonable amount of time to take care of those specific items, which I just indicated, possibly electricity or piping, right? One of those, that's necessary. And that landlord did not do it within that time frame because you got it all dated on your paperwork. What you did, you're also going to show the court the 2 estimates that you received, or the 3 estimates you received from legit companies. You're going to show the court where you took the lowest bid, and you got the work done. And so you're going to indicate you try to present that, and the landlord refuse it. So you present all that to him, then everything's going to be fine. You're going to be able to stay in your place because that's the law of Louisiana. But if you don't pay your deposit, if you don't pay your rent, you can't be hostage. You can't hold your rent as hostage.
Okay, Judge, thank you for that. Judge, just try to get in another caller, line 2.
That's the only thing about justice. It's so in detail that
line 2.
Good evening. How you guys doing today?
Just fine.
I have a general question that I would like to ask. I hear you guys, I've been listening to the show, I hear you guys talking a lot about tenant rights. But what about the right of the owner of the property? Is the Justice of the Peace Office an advocate for the tenant, or should the Justice of the Peace Officer adhere to the law that's published on the Secretary of State's website?
It represents the law, and it indicates that simply the Justice of the Peace, there's rights for the tenant and there's rights for the landlord. And that's where we go.
I heard you guys talk a lot about the tenant's rights. But meeting with other property owners, meeting with other property owners, it's not it appears as though the Justice of the Peace officers are an advocate for the tenants and not necessarily the owners of the property. Owners also have rights that are violated.
Right.
And so the owner can either go to the Justice of the Peace or he can go to the 24th judicial system. Is that correct?
The rights is for the landlords, and the rights are for the Justice of the Peace. For the tenants. And the Justice of the Peace is there to make sure that the rights are prevailed in either party. So that's when we go right back to the beginning, whether you have a written lease or verbal agreement, right? And if it's not taken care of, if it's a violation, then that means that the responsibility, you have to present that as a landlord, right? The tenant will come in, then they have to show whether or not, that's why you have court. See, it's just not one way. Let me back up. And that's the reason why we have court, right? We're not taking either side. And so when you come to court, the landlord will present his case and its evidence. The tenant has a right to present their case and their evidence to show cause why they should not be removed. The judge is there to make sure that whatever the tenant says, they can prove it, or whatever the landlord says, they can prove it. If one cannot prove it, then of course it's going to go to the other side.
So it's no taking
It's based upon what's in the document. It's based upon what's in the lease, and the lease is the governing document. Like I heard you talking to the tenant to read the lease very carefully.
Right.
And a substantial amount of the tenants, their leases are also governed by those who are on Section 8, the Public Housing Authority.
Okay.
So I'm just asking, the Justice of the Peace Office in general is an advocate for the law, not necessarily for the tenant or for the homeowner, just what the law says should be done. Is that correct?
Just for fairness. Equal fairness. Simple as that.
I just wanted to clarify, because a couple of the owners have been talking about that and making sure that the owner's rights are protected just like the tenant's rights are protected. Right. And thank you guys for taking my call.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. I normally this time we usually have to take another break, but we're going to go through it. I guess we started a little bit late. Also, let's talk a little bit about other things that we established that the judge is there to be fairness regardless what it is, it's the landlord or the tenant. And so I think we have established that to let both sides know that Judge Holmes and Judge Roscoe, that y'all going to be fair regardless. The law of the state of Louisiana said you have to be fair regardless who it all. And I guess the most important thing is having empirical data and the right information so you go to court I think you had said it so well when you said like attendants, like they can't get something fixed, they can get it fixed as long as they show that they went through the proper process.
Correct.
And that they can be treated fairly. So I think that in anything, it's a process with anything. And I guess anybody that got to go to court is, I know I lost out in court just by not having a receipt. It cost me like about almost $4,000 just by not having my receipt. And the person that was in wrong, they did have a receipt, but it was a phony receipt. It was doctored. I don't know how she was able to do that. She was able to produce some paperwork that she had to, falsify it. But I didn't have anything. She had something, and I lost. I really got upset with the judge. But as I walk away, I said, well, I got almost $4,000 for about since I got.
And that's what you have to understand. This is civil, right? And civil is different than a criminal. Civil, right. You have to prove your case by a preponderance of evidence, which simply means that your testimony, your exhibits, your witnesses, oral, written, and it's just have to tilt the scale in your favor. And vice versa, whether it be the plaintiff or the defendant. It just had the burden of proof lies with the plaintiff, and then in reverse back to the defendant, the burden of proof lies with them. And it just had to tilt the scale. So it's different than a criminal case. So that means you got to have all your documents whatever you have. That's why I indicated if you want to communicate, make sure that these verbal agreements, put it in writing. Understand exactly what you're doing, whether it's a family, friend, or whatever, or if it's a landlord, right, and a tenant. Because sometimes we know we can get so friendly in the beginning and say anything come in when it's time. Like you say, a bad day come, or individuals just don't want to do it because it costs money. It's not done, but you don't have anything real. And then what the judge said, well, you've been here, you've been living there all that time. So if it wasn't brought up for an eviction, well, you wouldn't be here still. You'd still be living in there.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to still handle the law, go through the process. But when I try to still give them their rights and what they did was wrong, and tell them what they should have done. Because I do not allow, I try not to allow, and I do not allow tenants or landlords to leave out without understanding exactly what the law is and why their judgment had been rendered that way. Simple as that. And sometimes it takes a little longer than what they want.
As a justice of the peace, you're not there to be biased. You're just there to uphold whatever the law says. Let's just say,
we represent the canons of the Supreme Court, so that's the key. We stand by them, and so if something go wrong, we don't answer to another judge. We answer the Supreme Court, the judiciary system.
What about pet restrictions on the property?
That's something you should make sure you put into your lease or into a contract to saying whether you want pets on your property or whether you don't.
You have restriction for pets being on the property or being in the house or what have you.
Hey, could I interrupt y'all? I know we're getting close to the end of this show. Excuse me for interrupting y'all, but do they still have another call that's kind of getting? Say they said call on line 2. They hung up.
No.
Okay, but anyway, back to what y'all was saying. I guess before we get to the end of the show, a couple of things that y'all may want to answer, something that I found out by just coming to the office one day, that when a couple come in and say if I came off the street and wanted to get married, I found out that they needed somebody that had to witness that. I ended up being a witness.
You need 2 witnesses.
So y'all might want to explain that before we don't say a couple want to get married.
Well, most of the time when they come in, they have to go get the paper from the court and we fill it out. And when we do the ceremony, they may have their own witness. And sometimes when they come in, if they don't have witness, we provide a witness or somebody to be there to witness the wedding. and to sign off on it. Yeah, they have to have 2 witnesses.
And prior to even coming to the court for the wedding, they must, if they're living in Jefferson Parish, they go to the Joey Unit been on the East Bank or to on the West Bank to I guess Second Parish.
The Gretna Courthouse on the second floor.
Okay, and they would have to present to the marriage department driver's license, birth certificate, Social Security. If there was divorce papers. If someone's from another country, they have to present that. If they were from another country and they did not have just a copy, not an original of their birth certificate or license, then they require them to come to get it notarized, the Justice of the Peace, to get it notarized, but they'd be to check it out so that that person or persons will come and we can notarize that form indicating that birth certificate or driver's license is okay. And then they would bring it back to the department. The department would issue the certificate of marriage and the license to be married, which would bring it to whatever official, whether it's a justice of the peace or a minister or someone officially in that capacity to render that ceremony.
So, to our listening audience, hopefully, some of your questions got answered today, and you can't get all this in 1 hour. This time go by so fast. But we hope that you got some of your questions answered. And thank again for those that are listening and watching. I see the former co-host of this show, Reverend D. Dunn. She texted and said she'll watch the show. And she said, tell Judge Roscoe hello and Michele hello. So we happy for everyone. To all our listeners like Wynonna Watson. And you start to call the name you forget, but you always, few people always remind you that they love the show. And we thank everyone for listening and watching. We love you so much for taking time out to listen and watch us. And Dr. William, and it's in our prayer that we could answer questions. And we don't have all the answers, but hopefully that we can answer some of the questions Dr. William always said. We don't know the answer. We'll get it for you next week. Somebody in the state of Louisiana, ain't in the United States, will give us an answer for you. And so we'd like to thank you so much, and we hope that you have enjoyed your week last week, and we hope you enjoy your week this week. And I always tell people all the time, every morning when you wake up, it's a great day. And every day is a great day. It's all depending on what you make out of it. It's your responsibility when you get knocked down to get back up. And again, we thank the judge, both the judge. Do y'all like to have a closing statement? I know y'all not up running for no re-election. It's not election time. And I don't know when they come up again, but both of these judges are elected by the public, so they can be independent. They're not appointed by anybody. They was elected by their peers and by the people in Jefferson Parish to elect them and do what they do. Do y'all like to have a closing statement?
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for inviting us to, so people could be aware of actually what we actually do in our office. So just like I said, if you have any questions, you can contact me, Michele P. Holmes, either Judge Roscoe Lewis, one on the East Bank, one on the West Bank. So we're here for you guys, okay?
And always remember, there's no such thing as being half dead.
If you're dead, you're dead. Love y'all. See y'all next week. Have a great week.
Okay, we good. That's it, huh?
No, keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to say it's so much that just a little time was not enough, so that everyone have an opportunity. I know it's more questions that you need to know, get answers to, and so it's a lot to it. So if you have an opportunity, maybe you can invite us back next month or whatever, and we can go a little bit more detail so that we can answer folks. So we can do that as well.
You know what I was thinking of? Public service announcements. The information that y'all gave out to me was excellent. If you can make the script, come in, we'll record it.